Movies on fire. Movies on fire. Okay, so the year is 2025. You're buying the super special collector's edition of The Man Who Shot Liberty Valence.
Ooh.
What gimmick does the movie come with?
Maybe there's like one of those cool old cards that are like 3D, the lenticular ones.
Ooh.
And it says The Man Who Shot Liberty Valence, and you turn it a different way, and it's one of our different main characters.
Ooh.
Yeah, 3D. It's gonna be a 3D Blu-ray though if we're doing that.
Oh, okay, sure. Personally, I was kind of hoping to go for something more gimmicky, like an apple pie recipe, or
that'd be good.
or maybe a gun-shaped bottle of whiskey would be really nice.
That would be
I
on
think
brand.
That would be great, man. Oh boy. So, or better yet, if the movie just came bundled with a copy of its remake, The Dark Knight, I
would be good.
I would be okay with that as well. I think that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, stealth remake. So.
Yeah. So, Zach, what are your feelings on The Man Who Shot Liberty Valence? It was obviously you who recommended.
Yes, that is correct.
We watch this as sort of the conclusion to our Once Upon a Time in the West. I guess that's nothing to do with the movie Once Upon a Time in the West.
That's a good
but
movie.
this is the end of our Western trilogy.
Yes, it is our John Ford trilogy. Yeah, this was actually the first John Ford movie that I watched. One of my friends from college had me watch this as one of her favorites, and I thought it was great. And yeah, this is one of John Ford's best films. I love it. I think this was a good introduction to the classic John Ford westerns, and I hope you feel the same.
Yeah, I thought that this was nothing short of a lovely movie. I enjoyed every minute of this. It unfolds in sort of an unconventional way. It kept me guessing. The cinematography was beautiful. How long was the runtime for this? Because
It's just a little over 2 hours.
yeah, I mean, look, quite frankly, I think there are some films from the 1930s and the 40s, 50s, 60s that sometimes tend to outstay their welcome. This was, in my opinion, perfectly paced. I think this is probably John Wayne at his most vulnerable, which is not typically a word I use to describe his performances, but his character goes places. He has a really cool arc in this movie.
Yeah,
I'm trying not to spoil anything before we get to our synopsis. But, I mean, I suppose, what really screams out to you when you watch this movie?
This is, and you mentioned a little bit of this as well, this is Ford's sort of farewell to the genre that he made famous. And that lends the film both a very interesting quality internally of commenting on the way the West happened and the way the Western genre develops around the West itself, but also on the Western itself sort of closing out, which is a very interesting piece of the movie that it works on multiple levels as a story about the West, as a story about the actual West, and as a story about the Western.
It's a swan song. It's a swan song to this era. And at this point, John Ford, he starts making movies in the fucking 1910s.
Yeah,
By the time he gets to Liberty Valance, this is 1962, he has been making movies for the better part of 50 years. That is a long time to be doing anything, and to be a film director at this point in time, it's kind of a legendary run. I mean, he was at Midway, for God's sake.
Yeah, and we've mentioned a little bit, but he has 4 Academy Award winners for best picture, best director, best director. And he won 2 of them back to back, beating out Citizen Kane.
He had a special Oscar cabinet.
Yeah.
His guest is like, hey man, do you have any aspirin? And he's like, oh, check the cabinet. Oh, I just see a bunch of gold statues here. No, the other cabinet.
Yeah. I believe Ford just threw them in the desert, honestly. Just didn't care about them at all.
He probably got the first one. It's hanging up in his house somewhere. But I feel like every one after that, he's like, shit, I know I forgot something in my hotel room. Yeah. Crap. I know I forgot the fucking statue out in Monument Valley. I'm not going back for that. Hell with that.
I goes back like 2 years later. But
oh, hey, I found it. Oh, guys, look at this. It's my Oscar I won for my last movie.
But yeah, it feels... I think you're right when you say it's a swan song. It feels very nostalgic internally and externally, both as Ford's last sort of traditional Western, sort of the close of the Western genre too. 62 is pretty late. And also as internally it very much feels reminiscent, nostalgic for a time that's long gone.
I mean, thematically, this is The Searchers, but even more so. Where, like, The Searchers is kind of, it's putting its shoulder around you. It's like, so, the West, it's going to end one of these days. Civilization, yeah, one of these days. Whereas in this movie, I swear one of the first frames you see is the train, the railroad coming right through the middle of town. I mean, the West is over. It's over, Johnny.
Yeah. And that's part of the reason that we chose to do these movies in this order is Stagecoach both brings the Western back as a genre, and it also kind of is the stereotypical Western myth, right? It's the outlaw hero gets to go off into the Western frontier, wins the girl, right? Town on the edge. So it's a very classic Western story. The Searchers sort of comes in the middle of this. It's the heyday of the Western in the 50s. We see that evolution of the genre of like, Wayne's character can't live in this world, but they are slowly winning it. But Wayne has to go somewhere else, or Ethan has to go somewhere else because he can't live in this world that he's kind of created. And I agree that The Man Who Shot Liberty Valence continues that we're now pretty late in the Western genre. 62 is not the end of the Western, but the spaghetti Western takes over as the main form in a couple of years.
The countdown has started.
Yeah, it's towards the end, and it also feels very internally focused on the fact that, yeah, at least in The Searchers, right, Wayne can go somewhere else. He can't live with a family, but he can go. And in The Man Who Shot Liberty Valence, the frontier's closed. There's nowhere left for him to go except to drown his own sorrows.
Closing time. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here.
Yeah, closing time. I think it's the Turner thesis on the closing of the frontier. I'd
probably say something horribly embarrassing, like it was Oasis that sang that song. But
I know there's an essay. I want to say it's like William Jackson Turner or something on the closing of the Western frontier in the American culture, on the way that like the ending of the frontier has sort of impacted America. It's very interesting, actually, if you ever read it, although a little bit Manifest Destiny-ish.
Oh, okay. All right. I will definitely keep my eyes peeled for that. You're going to have to give me a copy.
Extremely obscure 1900s writing. Yeah,
co-host, what is the essay, huh? What was it before the movie?
Yeah, but let's get into what the movie is actually about. I think that's relevant to this point. So.
All right. So, guys, I'm going to go ahead and break down Liberty Valence for you. It is the beginning of the 20th century in the town of Shinbone. Shinbone, the place where I want to live. Shinbone. I can only imagine how much the lots were there. Actually, it's my headcanon that this town actually becomes the town in Asteroid City. They're connected somehow. I said it must be canon.
I mean, in the West, it's the only two options for Western town at this point for housing costs and lots are like dead town, ghost town, or the housing lots are like $700,000 for a 1,200 square foot apartment.
I mean, Shinbone, it's where you go to get anally probed by aliens, folks.
It does sound it.
The weather, hot. The geography, sandy. Ransom Stoddard, played by James Stewart, rides into town on a brand new locomotive railway. What people used before Uber. Stoddard and his darling wife, Hallie, Hallie, thank you, are then immediately cornered by the town's reporter. Stoddard agrees to grant the interview, but not before he can say goodbye to the legendary outlaw and freshly dead Tom Doniphon. The movie then flashes back 30 years, baby! A young Ransom rides into town on a stagecoach before being summarily mugged, humiliated, whipped, and given a wedgie wet willy combo by local outlaw Liberty Valence. Guys, you thought flying on Frontier was bad. Ransom crawls back into town and is given refuge by Swedish. They are Swedish people. They are a Swedish couple named Peter and Woman. Ransom comes to just long enough for John Wayne to make his entrance, do a little first aid, and to tell him how much of a gigantic weenie he is. Rance then spends most of his time recovering as a waitress/dishwasher while trying to convince town marshal Link Applegate to throw his weight behind arresting Liberty. Link is too chicken shit to go within 5 feet of Valence because he values his life and decides to apprehend some apple pies at the diner instead. Over the next 3 weeks, I mean, dude, what's with cops and donuts, right?
Even at that point, yeah, we're like,
Even in the Old West, we can't escape it. But over the next 3 weeks, Valence returns to town to bully Ransom. Meanwhile, Rance gets involved with town journalist and famous drunk extraordinaire Mr. Dutton Peabody, who, my God, no man has ever, I mean, maybe Richard Nixon in the White House, but I doubt any man has been as drunk as Mr. Dutton Peabody. Peabody gives Rance a career, a place to learn up some English to the local yokels, and he gives him a spiffy, newish, maybe mint condition, definitely not mint condition, gun. Town woman, Hallie Swede, lusted after by Tom, gets the hots for Ransom, and he agrees to give her oral lessons in English. Because she can't read. And also because Rance is a virgin, but mostly because she can't read. Rance is a teacher. He's teaching her because that's the only thing that he can do. Meanwhile, we have Tom kind of giving them the side eye. And for those of you who can't tell, and yet another parallel between this and The Dark Knight, we have a love triangle going on here, folks. Tom can't read, but he can shoot, so he decides to teach Rance how to shoot at his ranch. Many moons go by, and the territorial elections are held to nominate the delegates for, checks notes, Colorado, Arizona, or New Mexico. Zach, which one do you think we're in?
yeah, it is state name.
Yes.
All caps.
State name. Yes, state name. Shinbone, state name. And anywho, Liberty wishes to be one of the delegates. Or was it Rance who decides on this?
Well, Liberty wants to be one of the delegates. They nominate.
Yes, that's right. But Tom roughly discourages him from this path, and threatens to shoot the man. So Rance and Mr. Peabody go in his stead. Liberty takes this insult on his honor very, very, very personally and challenges Rance to a good old-fashioned street duel. Unfortunately for Rance, he sucks ass at shooting. This guy couldn't win Time Crisis. This guy, no. He picks up the gun, and the gun's like, I'm gonna leave. So his friends all plead with him to leave town, but he is too stubborn, and he confronts Liberty. This goes poorly, dude. Rance is absolutely bodied by the outlaw, but manages to gun him down at the last hurdle. Tom discovers him being nursed to health in the bosom of Miss Haley. And as a result, Tom gets piss drunk and Molotov cocktails his own home, wasting a perfectly good arson, if you ask me. We cut to Rance at the territorial convention, and our boy still can't get over busting a cap in Valence's ass. He's about to steal the nomination, but some asshole tells him, you can't just kill someone and run for senator. No, that's not how this works. Ransom seemingly takes this to heart, and he slithers out of the chamber undetected. Fortunately for him, and rather sad for Tom, Tom does swing by and delivers this funky little flashback inside of this big, giant, huge flashback to show him that he didn't actually shoot Liberty with 2 weeks of training, a bad arm, and his virginity intact. But that Tom had shot Liberty dead from the side, unnoticed, real coy-like. Regardless, Rance heads back in and he takes the nomination while Tom walks off, never to be seen in public sober again. We flash forward to the present day. This reporter, having gotten the most important story in the West, tosses it in the stove. He presses delete the old-fashioned way and he burns this fucker. This is the West, sir. When the legend becomes fact, you print the legend. 30 years later, in a post-credit scene, a Western spy confirms first and foremost that the rumors are true. Somehow, Liberty Valence has returned. Black magic, science, secrets only the West knew. All right, Zach. That's the man who shot Liberty Valence. And this is, again, I think, a pretty foundational text that only one movie comes to mind, but I'm sure if I did more research and if I'm sure I looked up some other films, we could find a lot of parallels between other movies. I mean, the stuff with the love triangle particular, that just feels very modern to me.
Which part of it feels modern? Is it the obviously 50-year-old leads hitting on the 20 to
No,
30-year-old?
that part feels ancient.
Yeah, it's yeah, that's one of the. We mentioned that because it's one of the few things that has aged just awfully in this movie. I understand why they cast Wayne and Stewart in the positions they did, because they're very well cast. They handle their roles very well, but they are also like clearly 20 years too old for it. I mean,
Holly is looking, I'm going to say
it's like 20 to 30, right?
30 at the most. That's the max, man. James Stewart
is clearly 50.
This guy's 50 years old. He is a sugar daddy.
Yeah.
Okay. And then we have John Wayne, who is like sex symbol. Yes. Old guy. Absolutely.
Yeah. He's 60s aged 50.
He looks like a spokesperson for Viagra in this movie.
Or Marlboro.
Or maybe even both.
But yeah, that is one of the very few things that has aged this movie to make it look older. Outside of that, and you even mentioned that it feels very modern. The editing is extremely snappy.
Yes, it is.
It still keeps the longer takes that are typical of older films, but it flows in a way that is, you wouldn't be able to tell that this is an older movie if it wasn't in black and white, if you didn't know it was made in 62.
That Ford uses it as this very specific punctuation point on all of his scenes. He's using where these scenes end to underscore the emotional stakes of the character, and I think that's really cool, you know?
It underscores the thematic side as well, which is
especially for 1962.
Right, yeah, it's very early, and yeah, the fact that he's managed to get to both convey character, conveys character juxtaposition, conveys thematic juxtaposition, conveys temporal juxtaposition too. Both times when we cut to and from flashback sequences are incredibly well done, especially the first time where we cut from the calm modern Shinbone that's post railroad to the snap of a whip in the raiding of the stagecoach. Yeah. Which is, it's so good.
Put her up, partner.
Yeah. Every scene transition is incredible.
Yeah. I mean, I think the way he focuses in on guns in this movie, I think differs from his previous films. It's almost like there's a bit more of a trepidation around them. And granted, that's coming from the point of view of our lawyer character, who's definitely a bit of a dude. He is a deviation from the norm of Ford's movies that I've seen so far. I mean, I joke that this guy is like a weenie and a virgin and a dweeb and all that, but you know, he is probably the most relatable character that we have seen in any one of his movies. I mean, this is a man who studied, he went to college, and now he's thrust at, I mean, I joke and call it the bosom of the West, but that's where he is.
Yeah, Ford himself classified his movies into two types: his westerns and his easterns. That is not a joke, that is real. Stoddard is essentially a hero from one of his easterns, who he's placed into one of his western stories, which is a very interesting piece for him to do. But Stoddard is ultimately the real hero of the story. He's the central character. Wayne is really in a supporting role as Tom Doniphon, which is something we don't see from Wayne very much because he was such a big name.
Yeah, and that was one thing I did want to talk to you about. While we were watching this film, you led with an anecdote that there was some antagonism between John Ford and John Wayne. Would you care to elaborate on that?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was this movie, but on at least one of his sets. So Wayne and Ford were very close friends historically. But I believe it was this movie where Ford was just very cruel to Wayne and consistently used. So Stewart had served during World War II and been decorated, not massively, but decently. Wayne had pretty famously draft dodged World War II. And Ford used that to needle Wayne through the course of this movie. And remember, Ford is literally he's in the U.S. Navy. He's filming Midway on location. He filmed Korea on location. Very much needling Wayne's masculinity, which is funny given that he cast him in the role that is supposed to be the rugged Western masculine type.
John Ford is he's just showing up on set with his like war medals pinned to his chest.
His purple heart.
He's like, "Hey Jimmy, you know where I got these? Same place you did, World War II. Hey John, where are your medals, John?
Yeah,
John, where are your medals? Oh wait, you don't have a medal.
Yeah,
you didn't go to World War II, did you?
Yeah, it's very odd. But I think it does lend to some of the themes of the movie, which is particularly strange. Like, I won't defend it because I'm not even sure if it helps the performances. It's just a weird thing.
Oh no, I think it does. I think that's just one of those behind the scenes quirks where you watch it and there's something that that actor is feeling in real life that translates into their performance that I'm actually not sure that this movie would be the same without it, because
Yeah.
I mean, in a lot of ways, this film is the rejection of the John Wayne archetype, which is ironic coming from Ford, because he's the man who really codified a lot of these tropes.
Yeah.
I mean, this movie is effectively shutting the door on the West. I mean, it begins where it starts, and that's with the railroad, the fucking beacon of civilization coming through, and John Wayne just has no business being in this new world.
And this movie is about the closing of the frontier more than almost any other Western I've seen. That the point of this is that Ransom arriving, obviously he's completely out of his depth, right? He's carrying law books, which nobody thinks has any value here, because they don't. He doesn't even find work as a lawyer, right? So at the start, he can't, because there's no way he's a lawyer. He has to work as a teacher, essentially.
He gets exactly as far as the branding in the Old West, like SEO, which is just hanging a sign outside of the local newspaper shop. Yeah. That is exactly how far he gets before that sign is blown off its hinges by gunfire.
Yeah. So he's completely useless, right? He's absolutely pointless in the West. But because of his myth, essentially, the idea that like law and order matter, and that he's defeated personally the outlaw, right? The edge, that this is sort of what's bringing to the West, right? We see statehood coming as Ransom does, right? And Ransom kind of helps usher it in by being the delegate to statehood at random state. And this is the core central tenet, is the closing of the frontier, and the way that violence is necessary to win this law and order civilization, and that someone who could create a law and order civilization necessarily couldn't be this violent, right? Like when Ransom thinks he's killed someone, it's destroying him. He's literally
he's
got to go back.
Gutted by it. He has to go back home. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And Wayne's character of Tom Doniphon is the Western character, right? He is the frontiersman who is perfectly happy committing violence for no reason, is clearly capable of it. He mentions he's killed at least a couple members of Liberty's gang that he's hired earlier in the film. We know that he's like in a literal like testosterone fueled standoff with Liberty earlier on. So this is a man clearly comfortable with violence, and he's necessary to win this law and order, right? He has to shoot Valence because nobody else really can, but he can't live in it. It destroys him. He ends up just drunk as hell, and clearly like his house is still destroyed in the 30-year flash forward.
I mean, dude, it's probably one of the sadder aspects of this movie that doesn't really register, at least with me personally, because this is an older film. This is a black and white movie. I think the emotions are maybe a little bit more subdued in some of the older films, but it is a genuine suicide attempt on behalf of Tom at the end of this film. You know, he goes back home to his ranch with the intention of never actually leaving it again. You know, it's incredibly sad. And I think that's actually an interesting interpretation to play with. It's because by doing this, by agreeing to pass on, you know, he would have solidified Rance's legacy as this killer. But, you know, it's like he's jumping on that moral hand grenade there. I mean, never mind the fact that he actually did the thing he did. He actually shot the bastard. But it is Tom becoming this embodiment of Old West justice and judgment, so that Rance, the White Knight, can move forward.
Yeah, and the last line
once
of the
again, nothing to do with that weird Batman movie.
Yeah, the more when you mentioned it, I don't know why I'd never thought of it before, and then you were like, this is kind of just a Dark Knight story, and I was like, oh my god, he's right. It's just the Dark Knight.
It's the Dark Knight remake.
It's literally the Dark Knight, yeah. Except, of course, in the Dark Knight, the hero, I guess Batman.
I mean, I guess in the Dark Knight,
like,
it's hard to tell. I mean,
we end up, the Dark Knight ends up swapping the ending.
This metaphor or this comparison to the two, it really falls apart in literally the last like 2.5 minutes of the Dark Knight. But broad strokes, man, there are a lot of similarities between these films.
It is very close. The only difference, is that they essentially hold up Tom, while they keep the White Knight's reputation intact, but he himself is not intact. Whereas in the Man Who Shot Liberty Valence, the White Knight is intact, and it's Tom who's brought low, keeping the White Knight's reputation and person intact, which is honestly a happier ending in a lot of ways. A little sadder for Tom. But it is very, very similar in a lot of weird ways.
And one thing I think would also be appropriate to mention here, there are no Native Americans in this
correct.
movie, unlike Stagecoach, unlike The Searchers, where Native Americans play a substantial and outsized role in that plot. They are no one to be found here. I mean, I think if you look at these movies as like a loosely connected trilogy, our character who was he's like the co-protagonist of The Searchers. I'm blanking on the guy's
Martin
name.
Pauly.
Martin Pauly. Yeah, I mean, this is basically the continuation of his assimilation into the West, right?
Yeah, the natives are gone. And I do think that's an intentional choice from Ford. We see his next movie, Cheyenne Autumn, is probably not progressive by today's standards, but it is at least very sympathetic towards the natives. And yeah, we see that they've kind of been left behind in this world, that they've been pushed out. We do see a Mexican group. There's a substantial Mexican population in Shinbone, but they're the only like non-American actors we see.
I mean, let me ask you a question. Does the ending of this film, does it make you sad?
This whole film makes me sad. It's very nostalgic, despite the fact that obviously I was not alive for the Old West 100 years ago, like 150 years ago now, good God. But yeah, it has a very nostalgic feeling for like a remembrance of a time that never happened, weirdly.
It's like if someone made an epitaph into a movie.
Yeah, an epitaph for the West. And the Western too, which is again that weird meta piece that this is Ford's last major Western, at least in the traditional mold. Again, Cheyenne Autumn's very different. So yeah, it is also putting a coda on that genre.
I mean, the ending of them having, okay, obviously it's not actually John Wayne, the actor.
Right.
Yeah. Coffin, but, you know, it might as well be for all intents and purposes. You know, they lay this beautiful cactus flower down on this coffin with his boots to the side. And I just felt that was very poetic. I thought it was just it's a moving image that this film, well, nearly ends on, right?
Yeah, we have this small scene in the train, but yeah, it's incredible that he managed to weave all of the symbolism together in such a way. Like, it's a good character story if you want that. It's a good story about the West and like frontier and civilizational movement. And it's also a good story about the Western as a genre, which is incredible to tie together. Usually films can only handle one well, if they even do that. And also that line of the end of "This is the West, sir. When the legend becomes fact, print the legend." Like, if that isn't the story of the Western genre and of the West, like, I don't know what is.
Yeah, I mean, look, if this movie ever happens to play at a local theater, I kind of doubt it will. I just don't think
feels a bit too
there's
obscure.
enough demand. I feel like I mean, maybe
Even in the
you're-
West where we are.
Yeah, like I feel like if the only way you actually get to do that is if maybe, dude, I mean, can you rent out individual screens at a Cinemark? I kind of hope you
but
can.
I don't know how much it would cost.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll cost a pretty penny. Not that I'm looking to do that, but I would go see this in theaters if I could. I think it would really benefit from a widescreen viewing. I mean, granted, the soundtrack was mono, so I don't know how much improvement you would see by having a surround sound setup. The point I'm trying to make here, this is a beautiful movie. And here's the deal.
My God, on a projector? Oh,
Yeah,
it looks so
it
good.
would look really good. Like if you could somehow find like a 35 millimeter negative on this, oh man, it would look really good.
And yeah, Michael, you were talking. Tell me about the lighting in this movie.
Yeah, so I really appreciate how Ford uses lamps in this movie to reveal these dastardly villains just creeping out of the shadows. I mean, the lighting in this movie, it is violent. There's a scene where Mr. Peabody enters into his newspaper shop and he's lighting his candle. I mean, this guy's basically like staggering home, super
He's
drunk.
absolutely trashed.
And we slowly light up the interior of this room and we see these faces peer out of the darkness. It's very striking.
And the camera doesn't move either.
Yeah.
It
is just it's tracked and it stops and then boom, it's action time, baby. And I'm always kind of a sucker for these shots. I think most photographers are. But when you see John Wayne light up his cigarette with his match in the like city square, kind of bathed against the dark, it looks really cool.
Or Ford
It's giving a face to a silhouette. It's beautiful.
It's incredible. There's a fade out early in the movie that we caught as well, where Ford uses lighting in one scene, fade dissolves that into another scene, and the lighting just perfectly carries over to track your eye exactly where he wants it, and use one beautiful lit scene to just directly fade into another beautifully lit scene, lit very differently, and track it perfectly. It's masterful.
Oh, it looks really, really good. And then the fact of the matter is that this whole movie, I'm not sure which f-stop it was shot at, but this whole thing is deep focus, okay? There's none of that creamy, bokeh nonsense, which, to be fair, I love that nonsense.
It can be good.
It doesn't belong in every movie. Army of the Dead. Excuse me. But you see all of these sets. There is so much attention to detail packed into giving all these environments, these little trademarks, these little bits of humanness. They look lived in. And then you get to this school scene where we see Jimmy Stewart, Ransom, teaching the whole town how to read. And we see this American flag on the wall with maybe 30 stars on it. I'm not sure
40,
how many.
somewhere in there, yeah.
It's really good environmental storytelling, and I think I haven't fully maybe pieced together what this means, but I guess it's the idea that this is where the America of tomorrow will be forged.
Yeah. My favorite bit of environmental storytelling in that scene as well is his chalkboard behind him. He's written up education is the basis of law and order on the chalkboard. But if you look carefully when he's erasing it, it's easiest to see. The chalkboard is the railroad schedule. Like, that's the only chalkboard they had in town that he could write on. So it's just perfect.
I didn't even pick that up.
I know, it's incredible. Like, it's the railroad mixed with, which again plays into the core theme here of like civilization just overtaking this frontier. Like, and this is where Ford starts to play more with the thematic side, which is obviously Hallie, who is our kind of main female character, the main love interest. Ford often uses women to represent kind of like civilization and like local community. Obviously, that's rooted in historical gender ideals, but that tends to be what he goes for. She's originally kind of interested in 50-year-old John Wayne, but then becomes interested in 15-year-old Ransom Stoddard. But we see that transition very naturally. And it's worth noting, Ransom never pursues her either. She just starts to swap over to loving him as the course of the movie goes on, because he's teaching her how to read. He's bringing civilization in a very real way. Again, education is the basis of law and order, right? He's teaching these people the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence. And we see the transition happening very naturally. But the railroad is here in the background too, that this is going to obliterate the town, because we see from the very beginning in this first framing device that like towns sure change. Yeah, the railroad done that. That this world that they're building and that they're loving, because we see at the end they want to go back to this world, but they can't. The world's gone. It's moved on.
There's not a world to go back to. I mean, I don't even think we get that shot of John Wayne exiting through the doorframe out to the west. In fact, he basically disappears into the little pine box at the end of this movie.
Yeah.
And he dies badly, I'm sure. Like, we don't see it, but man,
we know he was poor, very poor.
The funeral director is trying to jack his boots off his dead corpse,
which aren't even that good. Like,
they're not good boots. He's like, I wasn't gonna boil them and have a nice meal tonight.
It's very bleak, but we see that again, that nostalgia for a world that they never even really got to see. That's kind of gone. But there's also a core element of like, what does it take to forge this, right? Because we see the violence, but it's worth noting again, the outlaw that we have to kill to get this law and order is called liberty. It's freedom, right? That there is an element that maybe this advance isn't always a good thing.
You see, Liberty Valence must die for America to be a thing.
Yeah, freedom has to go away.
Liberty.
And yes, Ransom's name is ransom, right? Something you pay for something good to come, right?
Look, we never said he was subtle.
No, he's not.
But first of all, it's 2025, and I don't know if anyone's been watching current events lately, but I'm just going to say it. Subtlety is dead. It's fucking overrated.
Yeah, and there is a lot of subtlety in this film. It's just not there. But the character work is extremely subtle, and that was something you were noting, is the acting performances in this film. and where those go. We were both commenting, who's your favorite actor in this movie?
My favorite is James Stewart. I just think
Perfect
that
accent.
he's got that geez accent, you know.
Yeah. It sounds so strange.
I can't do it. I can't do it. But
I don't know, Hallie. It's such a weird sound.
Hallie. You really ought to read the first 3 books and stop after that. I gave up once I got to Goblet of Fire.
Yeah, it's so weird. But what did you like about his performance?
I think, dude, I was about to say he's given the most to do in this movie, but I mean, I think that's really the highlight of a film is if you can look at the character arc and if you can see some form of transformation going on, that to me is what makes a movie really good. And we get that, I think, with his character, but I would say even more so with John Wayne. Don't get me wrong, like James Stewart does give a really good performance here. You know, he's coming into town with, I think, it's hard to tell if he has expectations of the West, but, you know, his sense of decency is shattered, and we see him putting himself back together in this movie and kind of taking on this reluctant role of town leader. He doesn't want to be in charge. He doesn't want to be in command. The whole entire plot of this movie is thrusting him into the spotlight to make that happen, right? Whereas John Wayne is interesting in this film because normally, man, he's this badass. He's like a Confederate commando, which I'm not too fond of the Confederates, but that is his role in The Searchers.
In The Searchers. I don't think he's in this one.
That's his performance in that movie. You know, he's this, he's the guy you don't fuck with. You know, he is traveling all across, what was it, Utah in that movie? You know, he's doing some heinous war crimes. He's denying people their rights of burial. He's shooting folks. Whereas it's interesting when we see this character archetype brought to a more, dare I even say, pathetic place. You know, because where John Wayne starts this movie and where he ends this movie, you know, it's like, kind of reminds me of the time I played Monopoly with my dad when I was 6, and I ended up selling him all my blue properties, and he ended up buying me out and completely winning the game. Mm-hmm. That's a very poor metaphor, but the point I'm trying to make here, they swap places, okay?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I mean, there is a changing of the guard, and neither character wants it, but they both kind of come around to accepting it. It's just, for James Stewart's character, Ransom, that position has a future, whereas John Wayne has to walk off into obsolescence. And
that's a great way to describe it, that it's
good
obsolete.
Grief. Yeah. That is really depressing.
And it's also worth noting Ford does a lot of subtlety here, where Stewart's character, Ransom, in a lot of ways is kind of a Captain America style character, where he himself is good, but not really capable of great things, right? He motivates other people to be great. Whereas we see Wayne's character here, Tom Doniphon, really doesn't. He kind of stands alone, right? He has one friend, possible slave, I guess, Pompey, and that's about the only person who cares for him. He's the only person at his funeral other than Ransom and Hallie.
He is incapable of galvanizing any societal change.
Right. Whereas Rance comes in, and very quickly the Swedish couple is
geez, you know, I see you reading that recipe book upside down. You know, in Washington we actually read books.
Yeah, and
we read them.
So he very quickly, he educates them, right? He educates specifically Hallie, but also a decent amount of the other people on how to read and write. We also see that he encourages everybody else to be better. The newspaper editor, Dutton Peabody, who seems to be publishing this newspaper for nobody because nobody can read, is very excited to see what Rance has to say about his work, right? And Rance inspires him. He's like, well, this is really good.
Hey, this is a good rating here. You should publish this on a bigger paper.
Yeah, and we see that he's a better person towards the end, right? He's now in politics. He's seemingly much more sober, which admittedly is not hard, but still. And but he's been made a better person. And we see that Rance is encouraging the community. The people are rallying around him. It's even made literal when Liberty comes to the delegate election, where when he loses the election, because the people all vote for Ransom Peabody, or it might be like before, but he specifically mentions like, you're all brave now when you're together, but think about how you'll feel later when you're alone. And that's specifically the core, right? Is that these people are banding together. They're getting their rights from liberty, from the outlaw, but they're also taking it from moneyed interests, right? In the form of the cattlemen who are opposing statehood, whereas Shinbone wants it. So we see that there's elements of societal work as well, that we have to construct democracy, right? Education is the basis of law and order. That Rance is also teaching about the Constitution. There's that line where Pompey is trying to teach about the Declaration of Independence.
For the record, Pompey is the only black character featured in this movie. He's played by Edmund. Oh, good gravy! I'm real bad at names. Anyone who knows me knows this.
Yeah, he is the only black character.
No, excuse me. Woody Strode plays Pompey,
and he is trying to say the line from the Declaration of Independence of like, all men are created equal. Can't remember it. He says, "Yeah, sorry, Rance, like just plumb forgot." And Rance goes, "Don't worry. A lot of people forget that part of it." That this movie has some criticisms about American culture, but ultimately it's focused on banding together, sort of fighting for your rights in the face of violence, whether it's worth noting in the cattlemen who are hiring Liberty to attack the town.
I mean, considering the context, this is 1962 as well. This is well into the beginning of the civil rights movement in the U.S., and there are a lot of conversations that are being had about the nature of personal liberty.
Mm-hmm. And I don't think that it's not a crazy progressive movie by any means.
Oh, heavens no. No, definitely not.
But it does have a very strong, in a very forward way, a very strong kind of pro-community feel, in a way that community is what's needed to fight back against moneyed interests and against the violence of the frontier. That, again, Wayne's character can't inspire anyone. The Tom Doniphon is alone very powerful, but he's fighting his own war alone. Whereas Rance is able to inspire the town to pull together. And that's what ultimately wins them statehood, right? That's what wins them the law and order. That's what wins them the bounties of civilization. It's not the violence. It's not the individualistic Western vigilante character. Again, similar in some ways to the way the Dark Knight handles things, where it's trying to go of like, how do you inspire law and order? It's through those stories, right? It's through the legends. Except it doesn't allow doesn't make the true hero of the story the vigilante character who is beyond it.
No, certainly not.
Instead, it actually goes where you would expect it to, where the hero is the character who is the White Knight, the shining beacon of civilization.
I mean, to be fair, shit. Does that make The Dark Knight a more interesting movie?
I would argue it makes it a weaker movie. I think at its core, that central theme is kind of brought down a little bit, because the vigilante who's outside the law is the one who is upholding the law. I would argue that's a problem with the Dark Knight. I think actually I prefer.
I mean, like if they switch sides though, like in the Dark Knight, if we have Batman actually, I suppose, if we have Harvey Dent living to fight another day, and if we have Batman going down and taking the blame for everything, I mean, does that make that movie better? I think
so in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
I think it makes it more thematically coherent, at least. The Dark Knight doesn't seem as interested in playing with that. And obviously, since it's a Batman movie, Batman can't descend into madness.
But this is very true.
But that's an area where I think Valence nails the thematic element better, in my opinion, is that, Rance is the character who can get them there. It's not the legend of Rance. The legend of Rance is very important, right? As the man who shot Liberty Valence. But the reality of Rance is also still there. He's critical. Not just in inspiring, but also in being there. He has to be there to inspire people. That the legend is as important as the fact, right? But the fact still has to be there.
I gotta tell you, I don't think I have anything else to offer in terms of commentary. All I can say is this is a delightful film. This is a very contemplative film. And not that I think you ever really need my recommendation, but I would recommend this.
Yeah, I love this film. I think I've made that point pretty clear.
Indeed.
I will say, I guess, what do you think about, because I did try to choose these as kind of a trilogy. What did you find interesting or not interesting, I guess, about seeing that evolution of film across the decades there?
Well, I appreciate the way they span history. I think it's also interesting that if you watch these as a trilogy, they are bookended by 2 black and white films.
That's true, yeah.
I'm not sure if that necessarily means anything, but it is tickling the pattern recognizing part of my brain. I mean, more than anything, I really do think these movies these movies form a very cohesive arc that you can trace the lines of, and it all arrives with the introduction of the railroad and the end of the West. I mean, in a lot of ways, this movie is kind of like the punctuation mark on this genre.
Yeah.
Or at least how this genre was, being displayed and how directors were expressing their own stories within the constraints and archetypes and tropes that it offered.
Yeah, that sort of second round of Westerns, the version we think of, really does kind of end here. Obviously, the spaghetti Western becomes big in about 1964. So just a couple of years out from this. And obviously it pretty much dies in the 1970s and 1980s.
I mean, in a lot of ways, the Western... and this is a conversation we have had before, but this is a genre that, it dies and other movies pick up parts of it and they keep it going. The spirit of the Western continues to live on in science fiction, in modern action movies. I mean, look, the Western codifies so many tropes. I mean, this is modern day Star Wars, right?
Yeah, I mean, Star Wars is a space Western. At least that first one does feel very much a space Western in a lot of ways. And that's clearly taking a lot from the Searchers, right? Yeah. And that's one thing we kept coming back in these movies. Like, we keep seeing modern films in these texts. Like in Stagecoach, we kept thinking of Mad Max, Fury Road, seeing the central story. We see Star Wars in the Searchers, and we see Dark Knight in Man Who Shot Liberty Valence, showing like we haven't maybe moved as far ahead as we think in film. That these old forms are still with us.
It's almost like we keep on telling the same stories, but with different characters, settings, and their own little tropes.
Yeah.
So, look, next time you're talking with your parents or with that one really annoying coworker who says they don't make original movies anymore and Hollywood needs to stop with the remakes or whatever, maybe give them some food for thought.
Or you could show them an old silent era John Ford Western. Show them Straight Shootin' or The Iron Horse, this like 3-hour silent epic, and tell them that this is the form of originality they're looking for.
Perfect, I tell you, it's perfect.
Yeah, back when Hollywood made good movies. And I guess one thing we were looking at is this movie obviously is black and white, despite color being the standard in 1962. From what we can see, it's just that it needed to be cheaper.
Okay, so yes, color was widely available. Color had been available ever since 1939 with The Wizard of Oz. Yeah, Paramount was looking at John Ford and they were like, okay, we're going to give you $17 for pizza, no toppings. You get the small one, okay? And you're bringing us all that change, all right? I'm going to be counting. I know how much that menu costs. So, John Ford, I guess I've seen reasons offered as to why this movie was shot in black and white. It's not like John Ford and James. Oh my God, Stewart. Oh man, this is killing me. Yeah, it's not like John Wayne and James Stewart weren't getting older at this time. And to be fair, they do look slightly less old if you squint.
I guess
in black and white. I mean, kind of maybe.
Yeah, that theory that it was done to make John Wayne.
I gotta call bullshit on that. I mean,
they don't look younger.
I feel like they actually look older.
If that was the reason it didn't work.
No, it backfired completely. No, I have no reason to believe that. Look, it was probably just cheaper to film on black and white, and we've seen this many times. I mean, look, this is the reason why Danny Boyle shot 28 Days Later on what was it, mini DVs.
Yeah, like 480p.
Yeah, that movie tops out at 480p, but that's how you close down half of London to film your movie. And, movies are compromises, and it looks like, John Ford was already pretty comfortable shooting in black and white. Or perhaps he had a crystal ball and realized that a bunch of hacks in about 60 years would use AI to put color in his movies.
There we go. Yeah, he was definitely thinking ahead. Here's an interesting question though. If you could go back, not AI colorize the movie, but if you could go back and like make the movie in color, or like have John Ford actually do this in color, do you think it would be better in color?
Yeah, I mean, dude, no, I don't think it would be better. Quite frankly, black and white has its own tone, and sometimes, you know, when your movie is about existential questions or, you know, I guess maybe slightly depressing subject matter, maybe that plays better in black and white. Maybe
the nostalgia tone works a little bit for black and white too.
Yeah, I suppose so. I mean, look, would it be cool to see this movie on color? Sure.
Right. Would I go see it? Yes, but
but honestly, one thing I will say about black and white, and sometimes when I'm on assignment, I will actually shoot in black and white with the intent of correcting photos or footage in color later. Shooting in black and white lets you focus more on the lighting and how that's being cast. And I'm not necessarily saying that was the case because, you know, how movies are made now versus how movies were made then, very different.
Yeah, very different.
Couldn't be more different, actually. You know, I will say this. It sounds like, you know, John Ford probably liked this format. I can't give you any reasons.
Black and white, yeah.
So why is that?
A lot of it for Ford, and this is me just reading his stuff, I don't know exactly, but he seems to have liked it because it put more emphasis on the lighting and composition, that there's essentially nowhere, I think he thought the color kind of hid bad filmmaking a little bit, or could hide bad filmmaking, that if you, the black and white had a more immediate, visceral, like filmic quality, I think, to him. It also was probably just because he's an old guy who grew up in the age of black and white.
Yeah.
But
well, I always thought it was because he was foretold of the great one, Zack Snyder's Justice League, Justice is Gray edition, streaming on HBO Max. Yeah, he knew that this movie would arrive one day, and he wanted to emulate its impeccable style.
Yes, the Zack Snyder style. I guess I don't even know where you would find this movie on streaming, which is unfortunate. I do think that it is kind of sad in some ways to see a lot of this film history just disappear into the random ether, but...
For posterity.
For right now, at this moment when we're making the podcast, where is the man who shot
you can
Valence?
watch The Man Who Shot Liberty Valence for free on Pluto TV.
That's not bad, actually.
No, it sounds like hell. You would put this on, and there would be commercials for like hymns every 15 minutes, and it would ruin the pace of the movie.
Does,
okay,
yeah.
This would I would not want to watch this movie with ads. It would be pure hell, because imagine this: you're getting into the movie, you're really just invested in the character.
The gunfight's coming up. The pure silence.
You know what? Ransom is just about to draw, and you have Liberty Valence looking at him like, "It's your draw, dude." And then, boom! Hi, did you know that with hymns we can regrow your hair in no time flat with revitalizing vitamins? It's all like color and shit. Or, you know, you get a commercial for like adult diapers or something, and you're like, man, I am out of this.
Soap, yeah.
I am, yeah. It's no. This is horrible.
Yeah, and that's, again, for the people who are watching, the reason we put so much of an emphasis on the way you watch a movie is not because we are being snobs and telling you shouldn't watch it on Pluto TV. If you want to watch it that way, you totally can. But because we think it is important to reflect that the way you watch a movie is going to influence how you engage with it. And we watch this, with sound quiet, no ad breaks on DVD. Just because, this is a movie that demands attention and it deserves it. So.
And if you are looking to watch this, I actually like to wander around downtown with this big trench coat, and I wander up to people. I'm like, "Hey, kid, you want to buy some movies?"
Just pull out a DVD copy of The Man Who Shot Liberty Valence.
Hey, man, I got that good shit, man. Come here.
Yeah, this kid's like, "What are you doing, dude?" For those of you who don't know, dude is an old Western term
This is what I appreciated most. Okay, not most, but this is one of the things I did appreciate about this movie. I'm like, oh my God, it's the origin story of dude.
It uses dude correctly, yeah. Dude is an older Western word that means like essentially an Easterner who's out of touch in the West. It is someone who is not actually embedded in Western culture. So it's a perfect use of it when Liberty consistently calls Rance dude.
Look, this has been my favorite word since I was like 6 years old. Dude,
yeah, both of us are Westerners. You gotta call everyone who's not a Westerner a dude.
Hey, what's up, dude?
Yeah. But it's very pointed. It's like another good way of like showing Ford's connection to the West is like, yeah, he uses dude very correctly. If you've ever heard of like a dude ranch, that is what it is. It's like a tourist ranch essentially that caters to Eastern dandies.
Oh no.
Yeah, but it's perfect. Like Rance is a dude, right?
Yes. Technically, he is a dude.
He's an out of place Easterner. So,
yeah. Well, folks, this has been our review of The Man Who Shot Liberty Valence. And I gotta tell you, thank you guys for sticking with the show. We're going to be coming right back at you in the upcoming weeks with, I'm just going to give you a little sneak preview here as I open up my
teaser trailer,
my trench coat to show you which movies I have.
Yeah, come on, kid. Want some discs?
Boy, we're going to be watching that Fantastic Four. We're going to be talking about the decline of the movie theater as we know it today. Memories of Murder. Prometheus in 3D. And I can't even tell you what this next one is because I don't know. And Zach won't tell me. So, folks, I hope you have a lovely evening. This has been Movies on Fire. Movies on Fire. Movies on Fire.